All right, we'd like to welcome reigning FedEx Cup champion Rory McIlroy to the interview room here at the Memorial Tournament presented by Workday. Rory, ahead of your 12th start at the Memorial Tournament, could we just get an opening comment on your return to Muirfield Village?
Yeah, it's always nice to be back at Jack's place. I've loved this tournament since the first time that I played it. I've loved this golf course in all of its different iterations and tweaks over the years, and it's one of the iconic events on the PGA Tour. I haven't won it yet. I'd love to be able to put my name on the trophy and walk up that hill and get that handshake from Jack. It would be pretty nice to do. I'm excited to be back. Excited to get on a nice little run of golf here coming up over the next few weeks, and always good to be in Muirfield Village.
All right, we'll take some questions out here. We'll start with Dan on the right.
We've got two. Is the swing feeling better than it did at Oak Hill?
Yeah, much better. I can't remember a time where I felt so uncomfortable over the ball for 4 days. So I needed to go back home and work on some things, and feeling a lot better about it. Not fighting the club face quite as much. Feel a little bit more free, which is obviously a nice feeling.
And then John was asked yesterday, and Patrick Cantlay was asked yesterday about the Ryder Cup and about the prospect of having live guys. You've said in the past that you don't think they should be able to play in the Ryder Cup. Do you still feel that way?
I certainly think Brooks deserves to be on the United States team. I think with how he's played, he's second in the US standings, only played two counting events. I don't know if there's anyone else on the live roster that would make the team on merit and how they're playing, but Brooks is definitely a guy that I think deserves to be on the US team. But I have different feelings about the European team and the other side and sort of how that has all transpired. And I don't think any of those guys should be a part of the European team.
Rob?
You probably know Jack as well as anybody of the current players. Who is this guy off the course? Who's the Jack Nicklaus you know?
I think Jack, the guy that I know, is probably the guy that you guys know too. He's not afraid to voice his opinion. I'll go into the lunchroom at the Bears Club sometimes, and if I'm coming off an average week on tour the week before, and I see Jack in the lunchroom, I'm like, oh no, I know what's he going to say to me. So, he's not afraid to voice his opinion, and obviously having the opinion of someone that has been so successful in our game is a great thing for the people that spend a little bit of time around him. But I think the guy that you all see is the guy that we see as well. He's a wonderful human being. He does a ton for charity. He's a very helpful person, and hopefully everyone sees that.
And Billy Horschel was in here. He's 36. He was talking about the difference between being 23 and while he has more life perspective now, there's that challenge of distraction, of not being singularly focused as he was. Is that real? Have you experienced that? How hard is that to juggle?
Yeah, I've certainly experienced it. I think it's something that I've really had to juggle for quite a few years. It just comes with part of life. You go through that whole life process of getting married, having children, having interests outside of the game that take up some time. And it's like, I would love to sit here and say that I'm just a golfer and that's all I focus on, but that's not reality. So it's just about managing your time the right way so that you can continue to hone your craft and make sure that when you turn up to events, I think that's when you see players get to the latter stages of their careers why they play less, because I think it just takes a little bit more time to get ready for the events that you play. So but that's life, right? I think that the interests and everything that I've got going on in my life right now at 34 are because of the things that I did when I was 23, 25, 27. So, they're first world problems, as they say.
We'll go to Cameron, then Dave, Bob, and Anna. I know we're trying to get to everybody. Cameron, go ahead.
Rory, you're probably always looking at golf courses and sort of thinking, well, this should match up nicely with what I do with the ball. How often are you surprised by that the results don't necessarily match what you might have expected? And have you been somewhat surprised that you haven't gotten a win already on this course?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the one thing here, if you look at the recent winners, maybe apart from John, they've all been sort of like medium length hitters. I only hit 4 drivers on this golf course, 4 or 5. So it takes the driver out of my hand a lot. A lot of fairways bottleneck at like 330, 340, and it's I have to. The biggest weapon in my bag isn't quite the weapon that it is at some other golf courses. So there's that part of it too. And I'm not, I've played okay here and had some decent finishes, but it's, I guess, sort of surprised me with the 4 par 5s and sort of the way the golf course sets up that I haven't at least had a real chance to win here.
Dave?
2, if I may, sir.
Of course.
First of all, you talked about as players get older, they play less and so forth. And Phil was making this argument at the PGA about the live schedule and maybe more conducive to playing better in majors. We don't really have much of an example to go on yet, but and certainly it's self-serving in a way to
You think?
Yes, I do, but. Is there some merit, you seem to suggest, is there some merit to playing less to prepare more, maybe as you get older?
You only have to play 15 events on this tour.
Yeah.
Like that, it's not, and, no one makes anyone play 25 events on the PGA Tour. 15 is the minimum. So you can play 15 and your 4 major championships, and there you go, you're at 19. No one's making you play that many.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty flawed argument.
I would probably agree. Secondly, talked about, when you have a lot of distractions and so forth and trying to fight through those to play your best golf. Can you speak to the challenge of keeping your concentration, not just for 18 holes, but for 72 holes on the same golf course? It seems like a challenge that people maybe overlook as part of what goes into winning.
I think so. I mean, I was just having this conversation in the Pro-Am. It's very rare that you see over the course of 4 days someone shoot low 60s twice, for example. And it's very hard to follow up a great day of golf with another great day of golf. And I think that just plays into the psychology of this game and expectations. And, it's happened to me on this golf course before. In 2014, I opened up with a 63 and then followed it up with a 78 or something like that. So it's, you go out in the first round with, nothing to go on, I guess. Nothing in your recent memory to go on, and all of a sudden you shoot a 63, and then you get out on Friday and you're almost expecting to do the same thing, and it doesn't quite go that way. It starts to become a little bit of a struggle. So, keeping your composure and keeping your perspective on the fact that it is a 72-hole golf tournament, and that whether you start with a average first round score or a great first round score, there's a lot of golf left and a lot of stuff can happen. And that's something that I've always had to try to manage in my game, because sometimes you're in the middle of the second round and you're 8 or 10 shots off the lead and you think you've no chance of winning. But when I go back into my memory bank, there's been times where I've won from those positions. You always have to remind yourself of those moments as well.
Bob, and then Adam.
Thanks. Roy, you said earlier a couple weeks ago you never felt so uncomfortable over the ball. 2 things on that.
Might have been a slight exaggeration, but I did feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. One is, first you did seem to manage it pretty well. I mean, you got some pretty good scores out of it, despite maybe not having, not feeling the best. But How does that happen? Like, how do you think you get into a situation where, you know, this is something you do all the time, but yet you don't feel comfortable?
The golf course allowed me to manage it. I think the setup of the golf course, the fact that there was only 2 holes I felt at Oak Hill that really penalized big misses, which was 6 and 7. So you take those 2 holes out of it, it was, you know, what I would describe as a bogey golf course. It was very hard to make anything worse than a bogey. So you hit it in the rough off the tee. You've got these openings into greens. You can run it up into the openings. You know, make your par, make 2-putt, and move on. So I think the way the golf course was set up allowed me to manage the way I did. You know, if that, for example, was this golf course where there wasn't as many openings going into greens, and I would have struggled more. I think just, golf swing, getting a little off, fighting the face a little bit, fearful of the misses. I was so fearful of a left at Oak Hill. I felt myself subconsciously just starting to aim further and further right as the week went on. Even like the last shot into 18 on Sunday, that meant absolutely nothing. Like, if I birdie the hole, I'll finish 5th, and if I par it, I'll finish 7th. I wanted to go to that left pin, and I just couldn't get myself to aim there. I just kept creeping right and right and right. So, just that's what I mean about being uncomfortable and just being a little fearful of a miss.
Rory, when's the last time you felt that, struggling with your driver, what you called your biggest weapon?
I don't know, I'm sure at some point, maybe not last year. I felt like I drove it really well for most of last year. Probably back in 21, I was fighting it a little bit. So it's been a little while.
Tiger at the Masters said that he wants there to be a cut. What have the conversations been with him, with Jack, and what would you say to Arnold Palmer that his event's going to no longer have a cut?
Look, I think that's all TBD. I'm not sure. Honestly, I haven't really been a part of those conversations over the last few weeks. I've sort of tried to not distance myself, but I just haven't really been on. There's been other things in my life that have taken priority over that. So I don't know if that decision has been made yet or if that's final. If you've got Jack and Tiger, and obviously Arnie's no longer with us, but those player-hosted invitationals as such, I mean, could you create some sort of bracket where those tournaments, if the hosts really feel that a cut is important to them to have a cut, then a 78-man field cut to 50 at the weekend, whatever it is, then I would certainly be okay with that.
I got time for 2 more. We'll go to Alex and then Ben up here.
Rory, are you as a player concerned about the fact that the purses are growing so exponentially, including even the majors? And is this where the PGA Tour is having to go into the reserve fund? The PGA of America, the USGA, I don't think we have to worry about the Masters, but the R&A, they're all having to find ways to generate more revenue to meet these purses. Do you think at some point this is becoming unsustainable?
At some point, maybe. You look at where, and I think that, and look, I don't know if this is, I don't know who to place the blame on here, but you have a new entity coming into the game offering $25 million prize funds, and other entities feel the pressure to keep up. So, yeah, I mean, you think about the 4 most important tournaments in our game, the prize funds aren't in the top 20 of prize funds. You think about that, right? Like, that's doesn't quite add up. So whether there needs to be some sort of correction in that, or I don't know. I look, as a player, these big prize funds are great. but it's a good question, you know, whether that's sustainable in the long term. Golf has never been healthier. The industry's doing really well. There's more money coming into the game than ever before. More people want to put money into the game. So I think for the short and medium term, I don't think it's a problem. But, you know, long term, I don't really have a good answer for you. But, you know, right now, I think it's at least sustainable for the next decade.
Alex, you have a follow?
And just to follow up, if in fact the majors decided that they couldn't continue to go on this rampage of increasing purses and actually decided to level them off or actually reduce them to some extent, would that stop you from playing a major?
It wouldn't stop me from playing a major, but at the same time, the major championships basically rent the talent for a week from the PGA Tour, and you know, you could argue from Live and wherever, you know, DP World Tour and wherever else. So, you know, the major championships aren't going to be the product that they are without the top players in the world. So would that mean that I would or anyone would go to the lengths of not playing a major championship to make a point? No. But that's just having a reasonable conversation with the governing bodies and the people that run those tournaments and try to come up with a solution.
And we'll finish up with Ben in front.
Mate, you were talking about work-life balance for professional golfers, but what about yourself right now? What's the most challenging work-life balance that you're going through at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's that. It's making sure that I spend enough time on my golf and on my career that I feel like I'm ready to play tournaments like this, but then at the same time that I spend enough time with my wife and my daughter so they actually know who I am. I'm not saying that I don't, but you know, there's that balance of, you know, it's time management. It's just getting your priorities in order.
Spoken like a true father.
Yeah, trying to, yeah.
Do you reach out to anyone in that regard? Like a lot of guys have gone through that, obviously.
Yeah, and there's I think the great thing about the PGA Tour is it feels like one big family, and a lot of the families travel, and you know, Poppy's made a lot of friends in the daycare program and all that. So it's a really nice sense of community, which is really nice to have. But no, I haven't. You know, that's something I feel like I can figure out on my own, but. At the same time, I know there's a lot of people that have went through the same thing, and it's nice to know that you can reach out if you want to.
All right, Rory, thank you very much for your time, and best of luck this week.
Thank you.